Well, he's covered wars, politics, and the chaos of Washington, D.C. And now NewsNation anchor Leland Vittert has turned the lens inward, writing about his own life in a new book called Born Lucky.
This book explores his journey with autism, the struggles, and the advantages it's given him. Leland, we are so grateful to have you with us this morning. Good morning.
Nice to be with you guys as well.
Take us back. You were a kid. When did you know something was a little bit different?
Yeah. Well, I didn't, because my parents never told me that I was diagnosed with anything. I knew I was bullied. I knew I didn't have any friends. It was clear that school was a lot harder for me than for everybody else. But a big part of this story is that my dad never wanted me to be defined by a diagnosis, and he never wanted me to use it as an excuse. So until I was in my 20s, my parents told no one, not my teachers, not the principals, not their friends. I never had any therapists. This was my dad's mission to adapt me to the world. And I think one of the reasons Born Lucky is doing so well, sold out on Amazon twice, we've now gone into a third reprint in just 2 days, is because it is a message of hope for every parent of a kid having a hard time, that they can help their child, not necessarily turn into a cable news anchor, but whatever their challenge is for that child, be it autism or ADHD or anxiety or dealing with bullies growing up, whatever it is, they can champion their child in the same way my dad championed me, and help their child grow and develop and embrace their own potential in this just extraordinary way.
Talk to us about your dad and some of the work he did with you. We've talked about this on occasion, but you didn't talk very much when you were young.
Right. No, I didn't talk until I was 3, and then I talked way too much, because the social cues and understanding that most people have, an emotional connection and understanding, I didn't. It was totally lost on me. So I'm really so grateful for what he did. And you think about it, when I was 5, my parents were told that I needed to be evaluated. So they took me to a medical office building center testing place, and you know what it's like, you sit in the waiting room with the stale coffee and the old magazines and everything else. And when I was brought out, the woman said, look, he's got a lot of issues, right? He has severe learning disabilities, because when they do an IQ test, it's the average of 2 halves of the IQ test. Well, a 20-point spread between the 2 halves is a learning disability. I had a 70-point spread. They'd never seen that before. They said, obviously, he has serious behavioral issues. My EQ, if you could have measured that, my emotional intelligence, was near freezing. And I had an inability to relate to people my own age in any way, shape, or form. So that was what we were starting with. And my dad said to this woman, what can we do? And she said, it's very difficult to understand what is going on inside his mind. There's not much you can do. As any parent would, my dad goes, is there anything I can do? And the woman says, well, generally not. So you can imagine how hopeless my father felt at that moment. And the idea of Born Lucky is to provide hope to so many families right now that also feel so alone.
He turned that moment of hopelessness into something amazing. I mean, he changed his life drastically to help you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he said in his words, he didn't think I would have any friends, which he was correct about. So he was going to be my only friend. He said, maybe I could be your friend, which he was. So he was my friend, my mentor, my coach, my father, everything, for probably about 10 years from that point forward, maybe 15. And he still is my best friend. We're recording this at 2 p.m. DC time, and I've talked to him 3 times today, and I'll certainly talk to him a couple more and call him to say goodnight. It's just the relationship we have, which is wonderful. I think what you're getting at is that he quit his job to be there with me all the time. And it was an extraordinary sacrifice on his part. And I asked him one time, Dad, if you couldn't have quit your job, if you would have had to work, what would you have done? And he said, I would have worked the night shift, because I realized the only chance you had was for me to be there for you, and to be able to put you back together every day after the humiliation and the bullying that would come every day at school.
How did you know all the hard work was starting to pay off? How did your dad know?
It's a great question. Born Lucky is my story, but it's not about me. It's about all the families who are struggling. I think what finally came to pass was when I was in middle school and getting humiliated and bullied every day, including by the teachers. There's a story in Born Lucky where I'm in art class and the teacher didn't think I was going to become Picasso. So he says in front of the entire class, Vittert, if my dog was as ugly as you, I would shave its bleep and make it walk backwards. For those not on video, it has sort of a physical response for most people when you hear that story. So he would say to me every night that your character and your personality and all the things that are leading to you being bullied and humiliated and crushed every day is what's going to make you successful later in life. I think he should have added probably, this is also great training for a Washington newsroom, because it was and is. But the flip side of this that I think is so interesting is how you said, when did I realize it was starting to work? I think it was once I started working that I realized that the two things he told me I could control in life was my character and my work ethic. That finally in the first newsrooms I started to work in, that work ethic began to pay off. And that was the understanding. And Dad knew I wasn't going to be good at school. I wasn't going to have friends. I wasn't going to be good at athletics. So he built in ways for me to develop self-esteem, earned self-esteem through hard work, which if you read Born Lucky, it started with him having me do 200 push-ups a night, 5 days a week. And every push-up was one more step towards developing that confidence.
For parents who have children on the spectrum who don't have the ability to quit their job and spend as much time as your dad did helping you, what's your advice for them?
Look, it's a wonderful question. I appreciate it. I'm not in the advice business. This is a parenting book written by a kid. What I can tell you is I think that every parent who has a kid who is struggling will find real hope in this book, that they have the power to do something. And so many parents are told they don't. I just talked to the father of an adult autistic child who is having a far harder time than I did. We need to acknowledge that this book is not about how to turn your kid into a cable news anchor. This is about how to help your kid grow and develop and meet their potential by letting them know they can be more, right? And that father told me the story about his son who liked splashing around in the pool. And he was already an adult at this point, but they decided that it would really help him to have exercise, which was a big part of my life as well, still is. And so they started giving him swim lessons. The kid who all he did was he loved the water and he splashed around is now swimming 80 laps, so a mile and a quarter every day. It's totally changed his life and his perspective on himself. So it's not so much about the advice as it is the knowledge for parents that they can help their kids be so much more.
And Leland, it made me so happy. I don't normally get happy for people's social media posts, but you had something the other day where you talked about how you didn't have friends growing up and how surrounded by friends you feel now. And I'm telling you, just having known your background, I'm just so happy for you. What's life like for you now?
It's a good question, and you're right. The launch of this book has been wonderful personally for me because there have been a couple of moments where my dad was proven right, that I was surrounded by great friends to come celebrate the launch of this book, and people in Washington and New York were kind enough to have get-togethers to celebrate it and to sort of push Born Lucky out into the world. I think it's important to know that you're never cured, right? This wasn't about curing me from autism. It's still an everyday struggle. And I tell this story about a couple of weeks ago. So this isn't in Born Lucky. That doesn't mean you shouldn't still go buy it. Sold out on Amazon right now, but you can get it at Barnes & Noble. I was at my father-in-law's golf club about a month ago, and I am sort of characteristically autistic in some ways. I've learned how to mask it and control it. But one of them is that I can become just extraordinarily task focused to the point that I can tune out the whole world, which I guess in some ways can be useful at times, but oftentimes it can be very challenging. And for example, I was at my father-in-law's golf club. We were late after golf. I was in the parking lot trying to pack my golf clubs in a travel bag. And this fellow who had just played 18 holes of golf with us, an older gentleman, had come over to try and talk to me. And he's trying to talk to me, standing over me. I'm packing my golf bag. And I was so focused, I just blew him off completely. Yeah. And I'm just packing the golf bag. And it was phenomenally rude, incalculably rude. And I knew at the time I was doing it and I couldn't help myself. And I thought to myself, God bless it, after 40 years of working on this, sometimes you still slip. And I found his phone number and I sent him a very long text message just saying, I'm so sorry I was so rude to you. I'm better than this and I am so sorry. I never in that text message said, and by the way, it's because I'm autistic. And that's because, as I went back to, and I think your listeners, viewers will see in Born Lucky, that my dad set the standard as the standard, and he never wanted me to use my diagnosis as a excuse or a crutch.
We're talking with NewsNation anchor Leland Vittert. You briefly mentioned, but I want to say it again. It sold out twice in 2 days. And I also saw a headline, Leland, that someone is trying to sell knockoffs. What's up with that?
It's actually turned into a huge issue because when the book hit and became a success, Amazon got flooded with AI versions of the book. And we went through on the show all of the fake covers of books, which obviously people were buying and buying fake stuff. And then Amazon took down a bunch of the fakes and took down the real book. So depending on when people listen to this, we're trying to make sure that Amazon gets the real book up so that people can buy it and aren't duped by the fakes. But evidently it's become a real issue in the publishing business and in so many businesses, right? That AI is sort of becoming this great scam, and it's free to do, and then you need humans to deal with it.
Leland, we could probably spend all day talking with you about this, but instead, why don't people check out your book? It's called Born Lucky. It's available anywhere you buy books. And of course, you host your show On Balance every weeknight at 6 Seattle time on NewsNation. Leland, thank you so much. We've really, really looked forward to doing this interview with you, and we couldn't thank you more for your time today.
And congratulations.
Thank you guys for the support and time all through, and we certainly love Seattle and your audience giving us a chance, so thank you.